making it easy for investigators to discover the culprit. It's either the father, the wife, the boyfriend or girlfriend, acting out in results to either disagreements, money issues, or just insanity. But then there are those cases that do not follow these standards, that write their own rules for police to follow. Cases that have and continue to baffle those who attempt to connect the pieces. Today we shall be delving into 5 of the most bizarre, mysterious cases, still unsolved by law enforcement to this day. The Boy in the Box, 1957. Dubbed America's Unknown Child, this tragic case of unidentified corpses involved a young boy found dead in a cardboard box within a littered lot in the northern outskirts of Philadelphia. The body was discovered during the end of February 1957. He was nude and bruised in the Fox Chase region of northeast Philadelphia. Many questions would arise as police would begin collecting evidence in order to help identify the victim. However, very little would be answered. What happened to this boy? How did he end up here in this state? Even more unanswered questions would generate as outreach to the public would be used, in hopes to find either relatives or someone who may have information beneficial to the investigation. Both local and national news would cover this case, as its strange and gruesome nature called in immense attention. Despite this being the headline news the coming days, the boy and his family would never be clarified. Police would even release photographs going as far as dressing the boy's corpse up and positioning him naturally, in hopes that a more casual visual may spark some sort of memory in a viewer or witness. Once more, this approach did not turn out as the investigators would have pleased. Countless leads and suspects would be looked into throughout the coming decades, each time either eluding police or coming up with insufficient connection to the boy. The victim's body was exhumed in 1998 in order to draw tissue and DNA samples, but he still remains anonymous. His body is now reburied under America's Unknown Child. The most troubling aspect of this case is its age. As time passes, those who could have possibly known anything grow older along with it. This narrows the odds that this young boy will ever be identified, though an email will be down below where, if you do have any information on the case, you may submit and hopefully assist in the investigation. St. Louis Jane Does, 1983. On February 28, 1983, 2 men scavenging through an empty apartment building in the West End neighborhood of St. Louis would discover the body of a young African-American girl in the basement furnace room. The body was only clothed in a dirty, long-sleeved yellow sweater, with her hands tied behind her back with red and white nylon rope. The most gruesome detail of the discovery, however, was something that was missing from the scene: the young girl's head. Police originally believed this case to be simple, starting with identifying the victim and eventually apprehending whomever was involved. Investigators, however, were unable to clearly identify the young girl, turning this into a difficult Jane Doe case. The victim showed signs of being well nourished before the decapitation, as well as no evidence of previous or lasting abuse. Investigators also estimated her to be between the ages of 8 to 11 years old. Further insight during an autopsy showed that she had been sexually assaulted and strangled before her head was removed, with what is believed to have been a serrated knife at a separate location. Due to the lack of blood, investigators believe she had been killed elsewhere and then dumped at the location of discovery days prior. Police would block off and thoroughly search a 16-block radius of the crime scene for any clues that may assist in the case. None, including the missing head, would be discovered. Investigators also searched through schools throughout the St. Louis area. Lead detectives would place ads in black magazines and newspapers, cross-checking FBI databases who also used all in hopes for a possible lead. Each provided continuous dead ends. The young Jane Doe was buried in a pauper's grave in a white coffin at Washington Park Cemetery as of December 1983. There she remains today. Despite many theories and potential leads throughout the decades, she continues to stay unidentified both to those investigating and to the public. The only one to know her true identity would be that of the individual who knows what happened to the head of this young girl. Princess Doe, 1982. One of the nation's most troubling and mysterious cold cases focuses around Princess Doe of Blairstown, New Jersey. On July 15, 1982, the body of a young female would be discovered by co-workers at Cedar Ridge Cemetery in Blairstown. The body was discovered in a ravine adjacent to the cemetery grounds. After initial investigation, the body was believed to belong to a young girl between the ages of 14 and 18. However, the cause of death was being bludgeoned by a blunt object. The girl's face was bashed in beyond any sort of recognition. Further evidence would show defensive wounds along her arms and hands, possibly hinting towards a struggle, and alcohol was also found in her system. The victim was fully clothed and was wearing a gold necklace with the rosy-like cross at the end. Many suspects have arisen over the years, ranging from local residents to serial killers at large at the time. Most had been interrogated, but none could be linked or confess to this murder. The county police department was able to piece together some clues that may help lead to identifying the young girl. With the help of a detective town in Ocean City, Maryland, they believed that the victim could have possibly been a runaway, taking up housekeeping jobs under various aliases. 6 months after her discovery, however, Princess Doe was laid to rest in the cemetery near the location in which she was found. Locals who were moved by her unexplained case chipped together in order to donate a casket and headstone, which reads, "Princess Doe missing from home, dead among strangers, remembered by all. Born? ? Found July 15, 1982. On June 30, 1983, Princess Doe was the first case placed into the FBI National Computerized Unidentified Deceased Files, becoming a textbook study for those at the FBI Academy in Quantico. 30 years prior, more evidence would be surfaced and connect to more possible leads. Princess Doe is now believed to have come from Long Island, her killer being that of a pimp after she refuses to take part in a prostitution ring. Somerton Beach Man, Taman Shud, 1948. The oldest and one of the most baffling cases on this list takes us across the sea and into Australia, where in December of 1948 in Adelaide, Australia, a body of a man was discovered along the beaches during the first day of summer in the region. The whole case started the morning prior, on November 30th, when a local couple was strolling along the beach, only to spot a neatly dressed man laid out, his head near the sea wall and his feet crossed. From a distance, they too could see him move his one arm in an odd fashion, leading them to conclude that the man was just some drunk who was waking up from a night out and about. Half an hour later, another couple walked by the man, and this time he did not move, but the second couple just believed him to be asleep. Lo and behold, the following morning passerby would discover the body once more. However, this time it was cold to the touch, and people quickly came to the realization that the man was dead. The body was taken to Royal Adelaide Hospital, where doctors would examine the strange man and come to the estimated time of death at around 2 a.m., noting that the likely cause of death being that of heart failure. However, the interesting aspect is that poison is suspected to be the reasoning behind it. Once more, the man was smartly dressed. However, despite looking through the belongings found in his pocket, no wallet, ID, nor cash could be found. No initials or names could be located on any article of clothing either. As police investigators and examiners continued to look into this man and the crime scene, things began to become even more odd compared to average investigations. For starters, as the post-mortem autopsy continued, those performing the work came across many abnormalities. First, the man's pupils were much smaller than what one should find, even going as far as being unusual. The testing also came to the conclusion that the man may have not been able to swallow at one point, as a bit of drool would leave his mouth while the corpse lied. The next bizarre thing would be that of the man's spleen, swollen and stiff, 3 times the average size someone should have. The man's liver was also found to be filled with congested blood, once more leading to the idea that poison may have played a key role in the man's death. As time passed, the identity of the man would remain unknown, until experts would be called in hopes to find more clues. Several theories and thoughts would emerge throughout this process. At one point, it is believed the man could possibly have been a dancer due to the defined calf muscles and pointed feet, while other notes would lead investigators to believe the man to have visited shortly after the war times. The idea becoming even more supported as expert John Cleland would discover what was dubbed the secret pocket along the man's trousers. Inside would be a small piece of paper with the written words Traman Shuld, Persian, and roughly translated to, "It is ended." Investigators tied the scrap of paper to a book of poetry titled Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, a popular read during the time this strange man is believed to have visited. Upon further investigation, it would seem that ultraviolet rays would reveal a hidden arrangement of letters and lines drawn through several of them. Despite getting assistance from expert and amateuristic code breakers alike, the police department was unable to crack this strange arrangement of letters. Many theories and loose ends would continue to plague this case as time went by, with several people and groups taking a swing at investigating after the police had lessened their efforts. Many think that there is a possibility that this man could have been involved in some sort of secretive spy operation, therefore poisoned, murdered, and had all traces of ID removed from him, while others theorize that this could have also been a case of suicide. Regardless, the man remains unidentified to this day. His body is buried, but sampled in case of further evidence may arise. To end this strange and mysterious case, as late as 1978, flowers could be found at odd intervals on the man's grave, though no one seems to know who had left them or why.